Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies to same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
Shop with Rakuten and you'll get it. What's it? It's the best deal, the highest cash back, the most savings on your shopping. So join Rakuten and start getting cash back at Nike, Expedia, Bloomingdale's, and other stores you love. You can even stack sales on top of cash back. Just start your shopping with Rakuten to save money at over 3,500 stores. Join for free at Rakuten.com or get the Rakuten app. That's Rakuten.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Attack the Baseline, the WNBA podcast where every episode we attack our baseline knowledge of the WNBA. We're your hosts, John and Kristen Barber, and today we're talking about the Minnesota Lynx, a team at the top of the standings, 10-1, a lot of wins, but this week they took a loss. So it actually makes it a little more interesting of a week to follow Minnesota, and I'm very excited to do so. But before we get into it, Kristen, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. I love that it's officially summer.
Mm-hmm.
My school's done. I'm chilling at work, spending time outside, spending time with our friends. So very much enjoying it right now.
And cooler in Philly. You're keeping the windows open. The fresh air has been spectacular. And joining us today, we have a guest. You heard him last season, but it's our friend of the pod, John Gilpatrick, or as we call him, Gilpy. Gilpy, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's very fun to have your Lynx knowledge, even though you're a newer fan in the same vein as us. But you've got the best team to root for at this point.
Yeah, by a half game at least. And maybe not according to some metrics. We'll get into that perhaps. Yeah, last year was like you guys, sort of a year of discovery and learning about the W and the Lynx for me. And I felt like last year they were such a fun surprise story. Mm-hmm. And I did not expect them to do as much as they did. And this year it's just like the expectations game and 10-1 is sort of meeting them and not, being this rootable underdog. It's not a position I'm used to being in for most of my sports teams, but yeah, it's cool. It's good. I also, as you both know, last year was kind of all in and we recorded this while I was sick. So I spent a lot of time watching Lynx games and diving into the stats. And of course, this year I have a 6-month-old at home. So don't have quite as much time to watch live sports as I used to, but still excited to talk about the team today. And I guess let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for it. And like you said, very different vibe to this team compared to where we were last season. And we'll get into all the nitty gritty. But again, if you are new to the pod, welcome. If you'd like to reach out to us and let us know how you're feeling about the show or talk to us about your team or about a future subject that you'd like us to cover on the show, you could do so at our email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com, or connect with us on Bluesky or Instagram at ATBPod. Check out our TikToks with clips from the show, made into little fun videos, 5-star rating and review if you'd be so kind. And that gets that out of the way. So Minnesota, as you said, they were the rootable underdog last season. I recall our title of our pod when we did it was the Minnesota Lynx, the dark horse of the W. And sure enough, they took the champion New York Liberty to 5 games in the finals. So it looks like we were pretty on point with that, I think a place that I want to start with you is just what did you think about the finals last year? I mean, it was absolutely down to the wire.
Yeah, I mean, it was as close like any sport championship game has been in a long time. I mean, decisive game, game in this case game 5, but
Mhm.
you go back to like Cavs Warriors in
Yeah.
the year that LeBron won. I feel like to have like a decisive game that was in a basketball series, and I mean,
Mhm.
I'm racking my head for like a baseball game, a game 7 that went to the wire, or a Super Bowl, I guess, like the Patriots and Falcons or something like that.
Mhm.
But this was just like as close a game. I mean, it was back and forth. Game 5 was so competitive. And it's tough. I put myself back to that moment, watch the game. It was like probably the most disappointing like
Mm.
outcome to a sporting event that I can remember. I mean, the Eagles Super Bowl that they lost to the Chiefs was disappointing, but like
Mhm.
it wasn't like so close, and this just felt like one thing differently happens and they're champions.
Yeah.
So it really was a bummer. At the time I felt like pretty bummed out that there were certain refereeing decisions that I didn't agree with, but I think I can look back now and say that like there were still chances that the Lynx had. I mean, Nafisa had a like layup that if that went in, the game is over. And that's too bad. The last shot that they got was a Kayla McBride 3 that I think was ill-advised.
Mm.
Mm.
I can't remember exactly if that was like a regulation to win or if that was an overtime to try to get them back in it. But they played a really great series. It was definitely disappointing, but if you told me before the season began that was how like my first WNBA season was going to go, I would have taken it, because like there was a great ride, and like they won the Commissioner's Cup, which was fun, and
Yeah.
it was a great time to jump in on this in this fandom, which just wasn't something I had in my not something I was prepared for. I thought like they were like not that bad, but not that good, so I could like root for them to just slowly improve, or
Mhm.
whatever, take a leap forward, but not be like morose because they're losing games by 30 on a regular basis, and just didn't end up being that at all. So it was
Right.
great. Yeah.
Yes, an emotional roller coaster that you weren't necessarily prepared for. So, how does that shape your mindset going into this season? Because now the expectations are kind of set. I've talked about this in some of our previous pods that uh, the chip on this team's shoulder is pretty massive, and I think they play like it is pretty massive, and they are all very serious about what the expectation is. The expectation is to win the whole thing this season, and they are no dark horse. They are as much a favorite as New York would be. But like, how do you compartmentalize then that mindset? Does that make you like a little nervous, or does that make you watch the team in a different way now that it's less sort of house money, let's say?
To be totally honest with you, I feel like it, like losing that series last year, like I felt like it was their shot, like this group of players' shot,
Mm,
and that I wasn't sure that they were going to come back. Like certainly, like they'd
mm,
have like that chip on their shoulder, like you described, because I think it's a mostly veteran team, and at least of the players who get the most run. But like, was it lightning in a bottle that they captured, or could they actually like you know, do what they're doing? I wasn't sure. And I felt like
mm,
part of me pulled away a little bit, like after the season ended, and I was like disappointed, but also thinking like there's just no way that they can like get back here.
mm.
Um, so I feel like, I was pretty, I don't know, I was like a little bit aloof, and I think I just didn't want to be so disappointed again.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair.
So I was kind of like, okay, and obviously, like they had a lot of buzz coming in, and Fee had all the MVP buzz, a lot of MVP buzz at least, um, coming into the season. which I was excited about. But I thought like, are we really going to get like such great seasons out of everybody in the same way we did before? I mean, one of the things that I remember last season when we talked, looking through their team stats, was like they were shooting 3-pointers at such like an insane clip, like number of threes taken, like their make percentage. Caleb McBride had like this ridiculous 3-point percentage. I don't remember exactly what it was last year at this time, but I was just like, that stuff's like not necessarily replicatable.
Yeah.
So I just thought like, okay, this was just like one of those magical seasons, and they'll be back to, maybe being on par this year with where like the Storm are, or where the
Sure.
Dream have ended up, and that they'd be one of those teams. But to sort of see them and New York going back and forth in the standings here is great, and it's definitely getting me more excited. I do worry about just like, oh, we're going to run this back, we're going to do this New York Minnesota thing again, like, okay. And New York is daunting. If they weren't last year, they still are this year.
Absolutely.
Now that they know that they can do it, like they got the monkey off their back for a championship. So yeah, I don't really know like where it's going to take me, but I do feel like coming into the season, I was a little bit just like sad sack about it, like thinking like, oh, they're just not going to be as good. And now that they're here, I'm like, okay, like here we go. Let's back to the Commissioner's Cup, which we could talk about, and see if we can just run it all back.
Yeah, and I definitely think that the team feels the same way too. We've been watching Stud Buds live almost every day this week, which is Courtney and Natisha Heidemann doing their little Twitch stream together. They like watch games, or if there's not a game, they just like eat food together on a live. And like every single night they're going live. So tune in to Stud Buds if you haven't. But they were talking about yesterday about how this team and this season, they really have to win, because they all know that this off season is going to be like completely game changing, and it will not be the same team next year. So they want to win so bad this year because they know it's all going to change and it's all going to be different, which is kind of a crazy thing. Like they all know next year's going to be so much different than this year, so they just have to do it this year. It's like a lot of pressure.
I can't think of like a situation quite like that in like any other sports where there's been like a like almost like a reset that's coming of the entire league, and how do you sort of mentally prepare yourself for that, and how does it shift people's kind of perspectives like as they're competing for that, like that last championship before things change. It's weird, but
really
I do
is
really weird,
like an element of like sort of finality to this season.
Yes.
Yeah, and I still have to imagine that, like, I would think they would keep most of their starting five together, but I mean, depending on how the team finishes, different opportunities may open for different players when they're all unrestricted free agents. Teams are going to be able to shell out, max contracts to players who might not necessarily have previously been open to max contracts. So yeah, it's like it's weird because you referred to it as lightning in a bottle, which I certainly believed it was last season, but now it's like more realized that it wasn't just that. Like they had the core that's able to come back and compete again, but yeah, who really knows what things will be the next season? I would hope that Nafisa Collier is there, because that is their current GOAT, the current captain of their team, the heart and soul of the team, that the player that everybody rallies around. And as you've already mentioned, she's been the MVP favorite. I just actually checked the MVP odds.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah, she's minus 370 to win MVP right now. Caitlin next in line plus 225 or something like that. Made me wish I put more money on her to win MVP, but I do have at least a little bit.
Good for you.
But yes, it is crazy because she had so much chatter going into the season, but she played big minutes and unrivaled. She was healthy the whole time, and she just took that same energy and brought it right back into the W. And she's the leading scorer by like 5 points. and she's dominating these games. Just like all things on the table, how has it been to watch MVPhee at honestly the height of her powers?
No, I mean, it's great. Yeah, I mean, I understood like where the MVP buzz was coming into the season, but like you still like look at the competition and just like the seasons that they had last year, and you're like, okay, like as good as she was, is this going to happen again? Where she's just, kind of an obvious second or third place player, but she's just so like asserted herself this year. And she's more like 5 more points per game than anybody else in the league, which is kind of crazy at like 26. She's in the top 5 in rebounds and blocks. I think she's second. So like it really is just like she does everything. So filling up the stat sheet for fantasy teams everywhere, which good for her. I think it's hard to imagine somebody catching her. If Caitlin Clark is second, like she's missed a bunch of time already. Like maybe that's a sports book trying to protect some of its money in case Fee gets hurt. But but that's what feels like the only thing that's going to derail this case.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They had the announcers in the Sparks game had a really cool kind of anecdote towards the end of the game. The Lynx were winning by so much. They're just like telling stories. And something they were talking about was how 3 years ago, Cheryl Reeve started meeting one-on-one with Fee. And they said, Cheryl basically told Fee, like, you're going to win MVP. So we need to start working that you're going to win MVP in a couple of years.
Manifest it.
That's crazy.
Yes. And last year, their goal was for her to win Defensive Player of the Year, and she won it. And I guess this year, like, is her goal is to win MVP, and she is like
She's basically
right there,
right
already.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we're only at the quarter pole, and the odds are the way that they are. It's not even just all narrative. It's definitely not all narrative.
No.
She's playing at a clip that you can't compare to any other player right now.
Yeah.
And 50, 40, 90. We'll talk about that a lot, but I think from the game the other night, she's 52% from the field, 41% from 3, and like 93% from the line, which there's only been one case in the history of the W that's ever happened. So, if she does that, you might as well just book her for MVP the next year because she's just that good. Like, it's crazy. And for a post player to do that too, it's just pretty amazing.
And she's just, averaging 2 steals a game, a block and a half a game, almost 4 assists. Like it is like a really unique. She's a unique player. Not everybody can do that, and to do it like, relatively efficiently, like you're saying. I think back to your point about like the team and its structure going into next season, if this is the last ride, like I agree. It seems hard to imagine any scenario in which they'd let her go, even if that means sacrificing another like really valuable player in order to make the contracts and the money work. But I just feel like she's the face of the franchise, and that they won't let that happen. And I have a hard time imagining that she like would really want to leave. Like even if this season doesn't end up working out, like maybe the team and the front office decides it's an opportunity to kind of reset in some way, but still reset it all around Nafisa.
This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Check engine, ABS, or maintenance light on? Take the guesswork out of your warning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. The service is free and provides a report with solutions verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we could recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Shop with Rakuten and you'll get it. What's it? It's the best deal, the highest cash back, the most savings on your shopping. So join Rakuten and start getting cash back at Nike, Expedia, Bloomingdale's, and other stores you love. You can even stack sales on top of cash back. Just start your shopping with Rakuten to save money at over 3,500 stores. Join for free at Rakuten.com or get the Rakuten app. That's RAKUTEN.
Coverage varies by plan. View contracts and exclusions at endurancewarranty.com.
If you're driving a car or truck with an expired warranty and suddenly lost your transmission or needed a full engine repair, would a $4,000 repair bill leave you stranded? I'm Danica Patrick. Don't get caught off guard with a vehicle breakdown. Choose the company I trust, Endurance. No matter the mileage, if your vehicle is less than 20 years old, Endurance offers comprehensive auto protection plans for any budget. Protection on the drivetrain, electrical, transmission, AC, and more. Plus, benefits like 24/7 roadside assistance and rental car reimbursement on any plan. Endurance handles everything, from making the claim, through the repair process, to paying the certified mechanic of your choice. Don't get caught off guard with a vehicle breakdown. Act now and get 1 full year of elite benefits. A $2,000 value, free.
Visit EnduranceWarranty.com for your fast free quote today. That's EnduranceWarranty.com.
Yeah. I that makes the most sense to me. And with the, there's also the double expansion of it all. Like, I don't know how many people they're going to be able to retain. So you're going to lose people that way too. Mm-hmm. You got to hold on to the best player in the league. It just it makes no sense to let her let her walk unless she really wants to walk. But yes, it's been a blast watching Fee, because I've been a fan of hers since honestly the first couple W games that we've watched. So to see that we realized how good she was from the jump and that she's meeting that, it's been really cool. So we've got 3 games to talk about. We'll go through, kind of talk about it through the lens of how certain players performed, I think is the best way to organize things. 2-1, like we said, this team lost their first game. They were 9-0, and then they lost to Seattle, and then ended up winning their last game of the week to bring them to 10-1. The first team to 10 wins, half a game up on New York.
Right.
So we'll start in Dallas. A David and Goliath matchup for sure, but we'll let you start. Any major takeaways that you saw from the first game of the week here?
I mean, it was David and Goliath. Like, the score looks like it was dominant, but it was surprisingly close for a lot of the game. I think that they really only kind of pulled away late. It was Nafisa had 28 and 10. I'm just looking at it like this was an inefficient Alana Smith game and an inefficient Courtney Williams game. We can talk about those players, talk about the team's depth, which is, I think, not quite where it was last year. And I wonder if that's going to hurt them coming off of a long season, a bunch of players playing in Unrivaled. And then what's, obviously going to be hopefully a long season again this year. But yeah, I think that what struck me the most was just how much this game was Fee putting the team on her back and carrying some other very talented players through down games.
Yeah, I definitely, just one of your points about the bench. I think something that I made a note on during this game was just Natisha Heidemann, how much she was playing. She's essentially their 6th woman, their 6th person, but she really is a starter. She could be a starter.
5th most important player, but you can't really you can play her and Courtney together, I guess, but it's not really optimal.
Right.
But she is definitely she's a very, very valuable player for them, and she has taken a step forward versus where she was last year.
Yes.
I'm curious kind of where she, if this leveling up that she's had maybe from season to season is going to carry into the playoffs, because she was a little bit of a weak spot, especially against the Liberty. She just really struggled that series to the point where I don't think that she was playable as it went on. So hopefully that's not something that rears its head again. But she had a good game against the Wings, and she has had a really good season overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. You saw it in this game that they perfect rotation to take Court out and put Natisha in. And the stud buds of it all is funny because you maintain the pink hair, even though Natisha did just dye it blonde.
Yeah.
So you would expect Court to go back to blonde as well, which she's had in the past. But yes, you said it. Natisha has been really good, really solid this season so far. She won them that game basically that they were down against Connecticut a couple weeks ago, hitting some major threes down the stretch to make it possible for them to take that. And then to get to see her personality more watching the lives, I've come to appreciate her more than I did this past season. Like she feels more like one of these realized commodities in the league that before I just sort of saw, a nice bench player, but now she is, like you said, a very important aspect of this team and also a very capable backup point guard. So yeah, it just looking over with this Wings game, it is kind of jarring to see that it was Phee with 28 points, Kayla with 21 points, and then nobody else scored in double digits, which for this Minnesota team is pretty uncommon. I mean, they have a lot of 3-point shooters. So typically you see players go over 10, go for 11, 12. But in this case, it was really a 2-horse race. And I would like to point out that it's been very nice for us to have Kayla McBride back because to start the season, she was away from the team for a while. And she's another player that we very much enjoyed watching, was very fun and unrivaled, and is, the Robin to Fee's Batman. Like she is just as much the heart of the team as Phee is. And in this game alone, she was 6 of 10 from 3. So you see just, pound for pound, how important she is in keeping this team ahead when, the score may have looked like it was at times slipping and that Dallas could have had an opportunity to take this one. But, you have the 2 best players on the floor, you end up getting it done.
Yeah, I'm looking at the box score for that game, and Natisha actually played more minutes than Court did, which I find really interesting. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, did like Courtney get into foul trouble? No, she didn't have any fouls. I think that they just, she was struggling from shooting. She shot 2 for 8 for the game, and they probably saw that Natisha just had something going that game. She shot more efficiently. She played really well, and they just kind of like rode the hot hand, which I think is a testament to the team's coaching, that they can do that, and I think some unselfishness that Court, who I think you all know is my favorite player, is just going to say like, all right, yep, y'all do your thing, let's just get the W and get out of here, get out of Dallas.
Yeah And it's helpful with the way that we've seen the closeness between the 2 of them. I'm sure Court is definitely going to be fine to take her hands off the reins if she knows she doesn't have it that night. So let's spend time talking about this loss because it was interesting to see it happen because it was a 1-point game within the last minute. But it ends up being a 10-point loss, which is kind of remarkable when you take a look at it in post. But general takeaways from the first loss of the season for the Minnesota Lynx.
So this was Fee's least efficient game of the season, considerably. She shot 9 for 23. I had seen that when Dominique Malonga was guarding her, she shot only 2 for 7.
Wow.
And so she really kind of like had her locked down, which I thought was really interesting. Impressive that a rookie is going to do that. Don't know like exactly like if that's replicatable or if that's just like a off night kind of coincidence thing. But it'll be interesting to monitor that, and if other players with similar length start guarding Phee, kind of more aggressively. because they see that as a blueprint to stop, who has been so far the most unstoppable player in the league. So that I think was interesting. And other than that, like, again, this was not a great Courtney game. Unfortunately, you guys got me on her not best week. She's still having a solid season. But she didn't have a great week. And Alana Smith played better. I will say that, like, one of my takeaways so far this season is that, like, Bridget Carlton has kind of been a little bit like invisible.
Yep.
And that's like, we talked about like, oh, Natisha's not a starter, but she's their fifth most important player. And I think that's because Bridget Carlson has not like really been performing in the way that you sort of expect or hope she would. Like, she was, I think, maybe the only player on the team that I would say has seemingly like taken a little bit of a step back this year. But I don't really know. She hasn't been bad, but she just hasn't been stellar. It was more of a team effort, even though they lost, because you had a solid Fee game, even if it was not her best shooting night. Another really strong Kayla McBride performance. Alana Smith's one of her better games, probably of the season. And besides Courtney, nobody really struggling in this game. It was just more of a defensive battle, I guess. And the Storm figured out how to put the locks down on the MVP.
Yeah, well, Fee hit 3,000 career points in this game.
Right.
Which is great for her. And Kayla McBride had her, 63rd consecutive game hitting a 3, which she immediately broke the next game.
She went 0 for 7 the next game.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy because it wasn't even a thing that we were aware of until the announcers made a point of it. And then to find out, did she make a 3? She didn't really have a great game. Oh, she missed 7 of them.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Kind of sad.
But I don't want to jump ahead to the Sparks game quite yet, but it was the team's best performance, despite.
Yes.
I mean, that's just like a testament to them, though. I just feel like you're going to have like one of your best players shoot 2 for 10 and 0 from 7 from 3 and still win by, 25 points.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But this game was interesting to me. It did stand out to me how not good of a game it was for Courtney Williams. I wrote down like her turnovers. She only had 2 when I went and looked back, but I guess to me it felt like she had more. She just wasn't getting good looks.
Yeah.
And I think that really is a testament to Seattle's defense. They just had incredible defense this whole game. I wrote down how Ezzy was guarding them well. You talked about Dominique. It was great. I did think Alana had a really good game. I just wrote down Alana Smith does everything because she's all over the court. Did she shoot a 3 in this game?
She did have 1.
She doesn't need to be doing that, but if she can, then she can. So I think this was a good Alana game, a bad Courtney Williams game. And that makes a big difference.
Yeah. I agree.
I mean, my takeaway here is that Coach Reeve went 8 deep in this game against Seattle. And, when you look at the 7th and the 8th player, Alyssa Peely had under 5 minutes. Carly Samuelson had about 7 minutes. And that's mostly because Jessica Shepard, who has been a backup big for this team and has been very, very good and very effective in the minutes that she's had on the court, is no longer with the team because she's currently in Europe for Eurobasket. So that is a major depth piece that this team is missing. And then this is the game that sort of highlights that there are at times some depth concerns. Obviously, in the playoffs, Shepard will be there unless, barring an injury. But you think about the team last year, and they would have had all these players that played today, outside of Carly Samuelson. But they also had Cecilia Zandalicini, who was a very reliable 3-point shooter. And when you brought up how Bridget Carlton has been sort of invisible. I think that is partly maybe due to the fact that now she kind of has to fill that void that Chechi left.
Totally agree.
And, you know, some days she has it, but other days she doesn't have it. So if she's capable of doing that, then we'll see the Bridget Carlton that we saw last year. But, you know, if not, then you're going to be saying, well, man, it's a shame that we lost Cecilia. But of course, you know, you can only protect 6 players in that expansion draft, and the 6 that they protected are pretty good.
Yeah, so. The 6 that they protected were pretty good. Hard to argue. Who was the 6th?
Let's see. They would have protected the starting 5, and it was T. It was Natisha. Yeah. Well, we don't actually know, but
okay. Yeah, I guess we don't, because I think that there was some debate. Because I, you know, that's one of the things that I want to talk about a little bit was, you know, we have these 2 first-round draft picks from recent years, Diamond Miller and Alyssa Peely, and they just are really not contributing. And it's a little bit, I started following the team before last season, and the Lynx had the 7th pick in the draft, which was this spot where Angel Reese went. They traded out of that pick. They traded back a spot with Chicago. I think it was back one spot, and they got like a future compensation or whatever, and basically gave up the right to pick Angel Reese and took Alyssa Peely. And, you know, I don't want to say that like it's tough. It's tough for a rookie to break through on a team that has like a very clearly defined starting 5. But at the same time, you think like for a team with depth problems, you have 2 first-round picks that can't really distinguish themselves. Like you sort of hope for a little bit more. And also like, what does the team do really well? What did they struggle with? Last year, they were one of the worst teams in the league when it came to rebounding. This year they're better. They're more like middle of the pack, but I think to myself, because this is a delightful thought exercise to do, a hypothetical, if you will. And, you know, if they took Angel Reese, the whole team is different and her career is very different, I'm sure. But that being said, they needed like 1 rebound to win the championship at a number of different points last year. Could she have contributed on that front? Perhaps. So I don't know. But that's just one thing that like I hope as the season goes on that at least one of those 2 can kind of find opportunities to sort of shine through. And we'll see. I mean, you mentioned Jessica Shepard, who's been a good player. With her off the roster, like a lot of her minutes have gone to, I'm going to butcher the name, but Maria Kliondakova, who is not somebody I was familiar with at all, but she played really well against the Sparks. So, I mean, that could be a helpful piece when Jessica Shepard comes back, if there's minutes. You know, if she plays well enough over the next couple of weeks, like that could be really good for the team.
I'll save my Maria K takes for the Sparks game, which I guess we can get into now.
Sure.
But yes, the rebounding is a good point. They are a smaller team. Obviously, Jess Shepard gave them a little extra size. I do believe that is exactly what they're hoping for with bringing in. I'm just going to call her Maria K. So I also don't butcher the name.
That's what I wrote down.
Yeah, well, and that's what they called her on the broadcast, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Maria K.
I'm sure they don't know how to say it either.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Coverage varies by plan. View contracts and exclusions at EnduranceWarranty.com.
If you're driving a car or truck with an expired warranty and suddenly lost your transmission or needed a full engine repair, would a $4,000 repair bill leave you stranded? I'm Danica Patrick. Don't get caught off guard with a vehicle breakdown. Choose the company I trust. Endurance. No matter the mileage, if your vehicle is less than 20 years old, Endurance offers comprehensive auto protection plans for any budget. Protection on the drivetrain, electrical, transmission, AC, and more. Plus, benefits like 24/7 roadside assistance and rental car reimbursement on any plan. Endurance handles everything, from making the claim, through the repair process, to paying the certified mechanic of your choice. Don't get caught off guard with a vehicle breakdown. Act now and get 1 full year of elite benefits. A $2,000 value, free.
Visit EnduranceWarranty.com for your fast free quote today. That's EnduranceWarranty.com.
So, the Sparks game. Another blowout for Minnesota. They win this one. What do we have it? 101-78. And there were times that I believe they opened up a 35-point lead at one point over the Sparks team. It was 34-15 after the first quarter. So clearly Minnesota was upset that they took their first loss, and they took it out on the poor LA Sparks.
This was, this was a game where, they were up by so much at half that like you got a lot of bench minutes in the second half. So this was where we got to see Maria Kay, and she shot the ball well, and had 5 rebounds, so that was pretty good. She had 3 blocks as well. So that's just something to monitor going forward, I suppose. And in terms of the starters, like they played fewer minutes, but Phee shot 13 for 16 from the field. Courtney Williams shot 6 for 10, so good for her, and 3 for 4 from 3-point range. This was the Kayla McBride game where she shot very poorly and still somehow led the team in plus minus. And then I said sometimes Alana Smith and Bridget Carlton are invisible, and they both only had 3 field goal attempts apiece, but not necessary in this case because they just had such a lead, and it was time for the next 5 to get some minutes in.
No, it was funny. What did I write it down? It was the second half when they're up by at least 25 and the Sparks were like making some baskets. They went on a little bit of a run, and Cheryl has the whole starting 5 getting ready to get back in the game. And the announcers are like, she doesn't need to do that. Why is she doing that? And even I was saying, don't put all these starters back in this game. Like, we're talking about how these bench players need to grow and they need to develop. This is when they can do that. So please don't. And she ended up not. She ended up just putting Phee back in, which I thought was good. But something I did write down was about Bridget. I think Bridget had pretty good defense in the beginning of this game, especially on De'Erica. Who it is kind of a mismatch. Like, De'Erica's pretty big and pretty tall. But I think Bridget was great at defending De'Erica, and then on Rakia later. So perhaps she's shining more defensively, which is something that the team needs. So that was good, I thought.
And I guess what I'll add here regarding Maria Kay and Alyssa Pili, as I mentioned, I think Alyssa Pili is one of these players that this team really wants to pop more than some of these other bench players. I really think they believe in her. I think Cheryl believes in her, even though she started the week at the end of the bench again. She has consistently gotten more points than Diamond Miller. She does have a pretty nice stroke from 3, and some of the loose balls that she went after in this game, even with the team up by 25, proves that she at least has a hunger when she's out there on the court. It's just going to be a matter of, can she stick in some of those places? But even if she can give you some positive minutes off the bench, that'll be helpful for this team, especially when they're down a couple hands because of Eurobasket. And the thing I thought about watching Maria Kay here is, after the finals, one of the things that many folks were thinking about this team adding would be another capable backup center behind Alana, There were questions about maybe if it was going to be Dorka Juhas. Dorka Juhas isn't with the team this year. She's also in Europe. And out of nowhere comes Jessica Shepard, who has been with this team in the past and plays well. And then she goes away, and out of nowhere comes Maria Kay, who makes her first 5 baskets, brings the size of this team up considerably. And, she didn't play in that game against Seattle, and she plays very well in this game here against the Sparks in, 13 minutes of run. I think we're going to see, especially over the next couple of weeks with Eurobasket and her being with the team now, Maria Kay hopefully factoring into the rotation and giving them a different look than Alana does, because Alana's more athletic, more of a stretch big. Maria Kay is like your prototypical center.
Yeah, totally.
Be tall, defend the rim, make the easy baskets. So
yeah, they didn't have that player last year, really.
Right.
And I felt like it showed at times, and it wasn't like such a deterrent, because obviously they still did really well, but there were times where I would watch games and I'm just like, can somebody freaking get a rebound, please?
Right. And, adding somebody with that's 6'5" plus is always going to help that. When your team is predicated on athleticism. A funny thing I'll add about this game with Phee, she had 20, I want to say she had 25 or 24 in the first half. And, friends of the pod, I'll say Laura and Elizabeth have talked about it in our group chat about how when a player drops 40, DoorDash is apparently 50% off. According to the WNBA, there's some promo code. And this looked like the game that we were going to get a 40 piece pretty easily. I think Fee's career high is 35, but in this case, she only ends with 32. Kind of surprising here that she only ended with 32 because of how easily everything was coming. But
I mean, she didn't play most of the fourth quarter.
Right. Unfortunately, when you get up in some of these cases, you just don't have an opportunity. She'll get a 40 piece though at some point.
Yeah,
I think so.
Did you want to mention Simone Augustus, because this was the
so I guess it was before this game, the Lynx did a little ceremony for Simone Augustus, who was a player on the Lynx, whose jersey had been retired already, but she was being inducted this year into the Naismith Hall of Fame.
On her first ballot.
First ballot. So I guess they put up a new banner with her jersey that says Hall of Fame now, and did a little ceremony for her, which was super cute. We don't really know much about Simone Augustus, so we listened to a podcast. The show is called Lynx Happy Hour, and they just had like a little segment with Simone Augustus interviewing her after this. And she just spoke so highly of the whole Lynx organization, saying how good of a job the Lynx do to honor their history and honor all the players that played, especially in their dynasty run of 2011 to 2017. And all of the players were there, like Maya Moore and Sylvia Fowles. They were all there celebrating with her, and they love getting back together. And she spoke so highly of Nafisa, obviously. Because they actually played together. Phee was a rookie.
Yeah, in Simone's last year with Minnesota.
Yep. So she was just saying how she could tell how much Phee learned from the players that came before her, and it's really working out this year. So that was just a pretty cool short interview with Simone that got us to learn about her a little bit. And very cool that she had her little ceremony.
Yeah. One of those players that I wish we had the opportunity to see, kind of like Candace Parker. We missed Candace Parker when we started the pod. Simone Augustus is another one of those legendary players. And, you mentioned Maya Moore. Gilpy, that's your cat's namesake. So.
I know. I got so excited. But yeah, it's weird because it's I'm a fan of this team and I don't have a connection to that era outside of my cat's name. So Maya Moore, I feel like I know a little bit more about, but Simone Augustus is not. I mean, it's a name I'm very familiar with, but it's not a player that I have obviously a ton of memories of. So it's kind of weird to have be a fan of a team with like a pretty rich championship history.
Yeah.
And to not have like an association with any of those myself. It's a little foreign, but hopefully this year we get one.
Exactly. You said it. Anything else on these games?
I'll say Anastasia Kosu had her first minutes in this game against the Sparks.
True.
She had such a cute little scrunchie. I loved it.
Scrunchie.
They said she's the second youngest player in the W, only older than Dominique Malunga.
Yeah.
So she's only 20, which is just wild. Like, I feel like this is something they're going to have to think about for the new CBA, like how all these international players can be so much younger than the American players. I don't know. But just very cool that she got her first minutes. I don't know if she had any points. Did she have any points?
She had 3.
3 points.
She had 3 points. So that's great. Good for her. Glad she got a little playing time. And someone that I don't want to be mean.
Someone that Kristen has been critical about. I know exactly where she's going. I was going to say
someone that should maybe have less playing time is Carly Samuelson. Yeah. And I just think she just hasn't really panned out as they thought she or hoped that she would.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think that's totally fair.
Yeah. I mean, that's again, it goes back to the same idea of like, can we have a Cecilia replacement? It's not necessarily Carly Samuelson, but a player that has gotten a lot of minutes because they did sink a first round pick into her. So they should continue to try it if the team is still winning. So can't really blame them for that. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's wind it down. We've got a few more questions here. We'll go to an email that we got from last week's guest, listener Tim. He emails in and he emails or personally texts me and says he would want to know, Gilpy, is there a team other than the Liberty that you are most concerned about in a matchup against your Minnesota Lynx?
Yeah, I did think about this a little bit. The obvious answer is the Storm because they beat them. But again, like thinking about sort of where, like how that happened, and I don't want to put it on like Fee's shoulders because she still was the best player on the team that night, as she is every night and probably will be every night for the foreseeable future. But like, she got defensively stopped by Dominique Malunga. They just have a lot of length, and I'm assuming that there's something to that. Izzy also, is just really tall and a force. So I feel like that's something that like the Storm can do well defensively. I feel like to really like beat setting the Liberty aside, to beat the Lynx in a series, you're going to need to do it on the defensive end. I don't know that like you're going to like outshoot them or outperform them offensively. So you need to like figure out ways to shut players down. And if you can get like a below average night from Fee, then, that's possible. So I feel like the Storm like maybe had a blueprint that other teams can replicate. And like, what are those other teams that have like the type of length that maybe could cause headaches for the Lynx? The Dream.
They haven't played the Dream yet. I was just checking the schedule.
So I'm curious about that. But yeah, I mean, the Dream are just very good. And now I'm cheating because I just picked like the next 2 teams in the standings.
No, but honestly, to answer Tim's question, that could be the obvious answer.
Yeah, I think it probably is. I mean, it has to be the team that already beat them and the team that I think is probably, at least right now, the 3rd best team in the league.
Yeah, and I'll be curious. They haven't played Indiana yet either. Obviously, Indiana has had.
That's a team that can just outshoot them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I said it has to be defensive, but when it comes to Indiana, I feel like maybe that's an exception.
Right. So we'll see. But it really, there are no glaring weaknesses for this Minnesota team, and I do think that they haven't been playing even their best defense. Like they were one of, if not the best defense this previous season, and I think they're 4th or 5th in defensive rating so far at this point. So they're not at their best on that side of the ball, but they're still 10-1. So when they get better, when they get back to where we know they can be, then what's going to be stopping them? So
they are still shooting a lot of threes, but like not like at the rate that they were last year. And they are instead leading the league in overall field goal percentage. And like I said, they have gone from like the worst rebounding team in the league to sort of middle of the pack. So I feel like they're shoring up like certain weaknesses and just making themselves like a little bit more well-rounded as a team. But yeah, like once they lock in defensively, then I feel like, okay, like then they're elevating to New York's level. Because right now, if I'm being totally honest, like I think New York is here and Minnesota's here, and then the rest of the league is down here a little bit.
Okay.
But I feel like there's still room for Minnesota to get to the same New York tier and be 1A, 1B in some order. So, and I think that comes either, ideally both, but defensively and kind of closing the gap there, or just finding more like reliable contributors off the bench, who can, Natisha, great for when those Courtney games pop up, because those Courtney games always pop up. Not always, like, but they're going to. But beyond that, like who's kind of filling in the rest of the gaps? And that's, we've got 30 some odd games left to figure that out.
Yeah.
I did want to mention the Commissioner's Cup for a minute. So we are winding down Commissioner's Cup games. Well, it was interesting that the Storm beat Minnesota, because that put them ahead of Minnesota for the Commissioner's Cup finals. But then the Storm went and lost to the Golden State Valkyries, which knocked them right back down. So essentially now, if Minnesota beats Las Vegas, then essentially Minnesota will win the West and be in the Commissioner's Cup. If Minnesota loses to Las Vegas, but Seattle beats Los Angeles, then Seattle will win.
Right.
If they both lose, then Minnesota wins.
I think I missed the Valkyries had beaten the Storm, so that is good news.
Yes.
Because I was like, I need to, send out love to listener Tim so that he can make some Valkyrie magic happen. I would have been more confident in that game than the Sparks beating the Storm, I think.
Yeah. So, Minnesota, I feel like a good chance that they're there.
Pretty good. Yeah.
But in the East, it seems like Indiana will make the Commissioner Cup final, which is different than last year, which is fun.
It is fun. It feels a little bit like last year, though, because last year you had New York, the favorite in the East, the team that everybody would have expected to be there. The defending champions last year
of the Commissioner's Cup.
Yes.
Yep. And then Minnesota was sort of the surprise team that came out of the West that like everybody it was going to be the Aces, and here you have now the presumably the chalk in the West, in the Lynx, and then sort of a mild upset, let's call it, in the East with the Fever on the way up. So it's kind of funny symmetry if it works out that way.
That is funny.
Yeah, and I mean, especially considering Caitlin missed all those games.
I know. I was like, really? They lost to the Sun, but that wasn't a Commissioner's Cup game, so that didn't matter.
Yeah. No, we'll see. I have enjoyed the Commissioner Cup as a concept. I think it'll at least be a competitive game regardless of who is in that final. And hopefully, for your sake, Minnesota has an opportunity to go back and defend that trophy and win that money for their charities. All right, one last question then to put a bow on it. I have an idea of where you're gonna put them, but end of the year standings, where do you have the Lynx?
I mean, it's hard not to say, tops in the West and right up there with the Liberty. like you said, they haven't played the Dream yet. They haven't played the Fever yet. So, like, you know, is the 10-1 record a product of a fairly favorable schedule? Like, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I do feel like the underlying metrics suggest that the team is as good as any other besides maybe the Liberty. So I think that, you know, there's got to be decent odds if you're looking at the MVP odds. Like, you know, I don't know if it's minus 370 for a Lynx Liberty rematch, but it's probably not that far off. So, that's kind of where I'm at in my headspace, and hoping that, you know, they just kind of figure out like how to make enough tweaks to the roster and the lineups to make it happen, make a title happen this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think all power to Minnesota. They have, you know, they exceeded our expectations last year. They're meeting our expectations this year, and in certain cases, they're going above and beyond. So,
Yeah, I think
exciting times in Minnesota. Gilpy, just want to say thank you so much for joining us and talking about the Lynx this evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, always happy to have you on. I'll say for, you know, as we close out the show, listeners, if you'd like to reach out to us again, you can do so at our email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com, or connect with us on Bluesky and Instagram at ATBPod. 5-star rating and reviews. Check out our TikTok. Do all that good stuff. Kristen, anything for Gilpy on the way out?
Not for Gilpy. I was like, thank you to Gilpy. I will also say, I just really also like the Pride logo that the Lynx have going on for Pride Month. It's like they changed the basketball in the background to be rainbow, but the Lynx is like still in front of it. I just really like that, and I appreciate the logo.
Yeah, good. A very good organization that understands how to properly celebrate Pride Month.
Yes.
So shout out to Minnesota.
And shout out to Minnesota. There's a lot of stuff happening there right now that
Yes,
just, I know the team put out a statement. So, you know, I'm not from Minnesota, obviously. We're all from Philly area, but just, you know, hopefully the community there finds some peace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. Prayers for those in Minnesota.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's going to do it for our episode of Attack the Baseline. Gilpy, again, thank you so much for joining us. And Kristen, I'm staring at the baseline. What are we going to do?
Attack it.
Attack the Baseline. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back next week with the
Washington Mystics.
There it is. See you later.
Hey, I'm John Ashton.
And I'm Neil Michaels.
And we are the hosts of the Approach Shot, the golf-flavored podcast.
Golf-flavored? What does that mean?
It means we talk with celebrities like athletes, actors, and authors about their careers, their passions, and what sets us apart, their golf game.
Hence the golf-flavored. Got it.
Yeah, we've had terrific guests like baseball all-stars Fred Lynn, Brett Saberhagen, Dale Murphy, Chris Sabo.
And football all-pros like Dwight Freeney, Lofa Tatupu, O.J. McDuffie, Jeff Garcia.
And from TV, how about Richard Karn from Home Improvement, Donnie Most from Happy Days, Ben Higgins from The Bachelor. You get the idea.
I certainly do. We have a lot of laughs, and our guests love to tell amazing stories. Join the fun by downloading an episode or 5 of The Approach Shot today.
And not today. Maybe tomorrow. Today I've got to wash my hair.
Really, John? Bragging about your full head of hair again?
Got it. You flaunt it, man.
And if you don't?
Download the Approach Shot today on Apple, Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts.